Welcome to another episode of DD on the Spot. As always, I'm your host, Ryan Johnson. And before we get into it with our guest here today, I'd like to remind everyone that if you enjoy this content, to please give a like and subscribe down below. I'd greatly appreciate it. We have Crystal Leigh on the podcast. She's coming to us all the way from Maine, where she might be our first guest from Maine. I'm not gonna lie. I might have had one more, but after doing like 500 of these, I kind of lost count. But I'm trying to get one on from every single state, and now I think I only have Alaska and it's like Idaho or one of those states out west. But fun fact for anyone who's a fan of the movie Wet Hot American Summer, which she hasn't seen, which I told her she needs to go and see it like as soon as we're done doing this podcast. She lives close to Waterville, Maine, which is everyone knows that's the fun sequence that they do where they go visit Waterville because there are a bunch of camp counselors that go and visit the town for the day, and hilarious ensues. So I won't really get too much into that. And if anyone hasn't seen that movie already, what are you doing with your life? Go and figure that stuff out. But she's on here to share her health and fitness journey with us, and yeah, just discuss all things health and fitness. But most importantly, she's our current guest. Crystal, thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks for having me. This is fun.
Absolutely. Well, as much as I hate to ask this, what is the weather like today in Maine?
Well, today it's very, very nice. It's almost 60 and it's mostly sunny. Yeah. Tomorrow, however, we'll be back down into the 40s and rainy.
I'm not going to lie, it is 40 degrees here today. It's the first day that we've had all year where it's above freezing, so I'm actually going to probably have a bonfire tonight with some friends. So
Yes.
I'm not going to lie, I can't really complain too much. I mean, at least you're not like from Florida or California, and then I just basically want to slit my wrist talking to you just like, okay, this is ridiculous. But before we get into the weather woes, because I mean, that's just depressing enough as it is, why don't you give us first off your backstory and what really inspired and motivated you to get in shape and eventually become a bodybuilder?
Oh gosh. Well, growing up, I was really into plastic surgery. Actually, I wanted to be a surgeon.
Oh, I thought you meant like yourself. You were into like plastic
No.
surgery. It's like as a kid, I got plastic surgery all the time. Yeah.
No, I was just fascinated by the procedures that they did and how they made people feel, most importantly, like after the procedure was done. So I really wanted to help people feel better about themselves in a way. So, but then in high school, I started lifting with a team. We just had a weightlifting team for fun after school. And that really showed me like how fitness can help people improve their physiques, how they feel about themselves, their self-confidence, all of that. So then I started going more in that direction. I went to college for exercise science, and I always looked at like competitors and I thought, man, they look incredible. Their confidence and their stage presence on stage is above anything I had ever seen before. So I kind of like trained as if I was going to compete, but never felt like I could really do it. I never thought I could have enough muscle or could have I just didn't think I could do it. So when I met my husband, he was a bodybuilder and he had been coaching people. And he was like, "Yeah, you could do bikini." And I was like, "Oh man, I don't know. I don't." That was when bikini was very new. And for those of you who have been around a little bit, you know what bikini used to kind of look like. It is not what it is now. So I was like, I don't want to do that. I want to do figure. And he was like, let's start in bikini and kind of see how you do and how you like it. So yeah, I ripped the band-aid off. I just did my first show back in 2014 and I fell in love with it. So I've been hooked ever since.
Did you have any reservations about the sport before you got started? Because this is a sport where there's so many myths about it, especially in the general public, where I always love to tell the story of I've had a few friends of mine who ask, what I do in my spare time. I say, oh, I do a podcast, and we have sometimes a lot of bodybuilders on. And they go, oh yeah, those are the people that just work out a lot and they go on stage and they pose, and it's like you got about 1% of it down. Like there's so much more to this lifestyle than just that. But did you have any reservations about the sport before you got started, or was it something that you just wanted to dive right in and see what happens?
No, I definitely did. Like I said, when bikini was new, the posing was completely different. It wasn't as classy as it is now. I didn't want to do that on stage. I was very almost like conservative almost. So yeah, it was the posing that kind of made me not want to compete. But I met with a really great posing coach in my area, Crystal Leigh. Shout out, you're amazing. So she got me started, and she really made me feel like you can make the posing whatever you want. You bring out your best assets in your physique and show your confidence on stage.
Absolutely. And what was probably, would you say, the one thing that surprised you most about this sport when you really got into the thick of things?
Just realizing how much you're really capable of mentally, but also physically. It's honestly, I feel like it's more mental than it is physical a lot of the time. Like we were talking earlier, a lot of people can do the training, right? That's kind of the fun part. But the diet is hard sometimes. It is not all the time.
I've told this story before, but everyone knows it. I tried. I first of all, I wasn't even going to compete, but I lasted about 3.5 weeks, and I was like, okay, yeah, this is ridiculous. So yeah, she's preaching to the choir right now.
But when you hold yourself accountable and you stick with it day after day, I mean, sometimes you gotta break it up, just one meal at a time, 1 hour at a time, just to get through that day. But when you stick with it over time, you really build that confidence, and it builds. It layers on itself, so you get more confident as you go through. You learn things about your body, what you're capable of as you go through.
I literally sent a video to my friend who was competing of me eating 3 hot dogs. That was how I told him that I was done now. I was like, okay, you know what? Here we go. It's done now. But yeah, that's the thing that I mean, there's so much about this sport that most people do not understand. But you talked about like the mental change too, and that's one thing that it impacts your life, 100 times more than any physical changes will make. And unfortunately, most people will just see the physical changes because they'll just notice you and be like, "Oh, Crystal, you look amazing," but they won't realize that mental change as well. What has this mental journey been like for you?
Oh man, I feel like I'm a completely different person now. From 8 years ago, starting this whole journey, I was, like I said, I was very self-conscious. I didn't like to be in a bathing suit, to now, like, I mean, I'm on stage in a teeny tiny bikini in front of hundreds, thousands of people. Yeah, it's definitely a transformation.
I'm sorry. I've been smiling this whole time because ever since you said that like I was obsessed with plastic surgery, I just pictured in my mind like a little kid just like with every plastic surgery imaginable, just like walking down the thing and everyone just being like, "Oh, that's Crystal doing her plastic surgery thing." I'm gonna try to get that out of my mind for the rest of the podcast, but literally since you said that, I was like, okay, that's hilarious. But no, that like you talked about, like being able to walk on stage in a bikini is a talent that less than I'd probably think like 1/100% of the population would be willing to do. Was that something that, like you said, you struggled with that already, but now you're doing a show where you walk on stage in a bikini and get judged by a lot of people. How did that mind switch really happen for you? Was it over time, or was it just one of those days where you just realized, like, hey, I'm working my butt off. I might as well go on stage and show it off?
It was a little bit of both. So for the first show, it was definitely like, okay, I just have to do it. I put in all the work. Now I just need to take those steps out on the stage. Just almost like push yourself out there. And I'm not gonna lie. So when I get really nervous, I feel like I have to go to the bathroom, like I have to pee, even though I don't have to.
I'm not gonna lie, I'm the same exact. That was me with baseball all the time. Whenever I was pitching, every
Right?
time. Yeah,
What is it? Like you
I
just
would
go
be
to
the
the
guy who was in the bathroom right before they're like, Ryan, you have to go on the mound right now. And then I just run out there. And then as soon as I got on the mound, I was fine. But yeah, like before then, I was just a wreck. Yeah.
So after that first one, I just had to tell myself this nervous energy that I'm feeling, it's excitement. I'm excited. I'm not nervous. I'm excited. So I just had to just change that mindset, that framing. I just had to reframe it, really. And now, like when I stepped on stage last weekend, I wasn't nervous at all. At any point during the day, I was super calm, confident, ready to rock it. So it does take time.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I mean, just like with anything in life, it takes time, and unfortunately, I have to add that for this sport as well because this is not a lifestyle. If you want to see results overnight, it's not going to happen. This is a sport of delayed gratification, as I've said many times, where you're not going to see those changes. And first of all, if you do, give me your number, and I will spend my entire life savings to train with you then because you have found the secret that everybody and their brother has been looking for. But that also goes on to, I mean, a lot of women still have that fear that if they even look at a dumbbell, they're going to put on like 50 pounds of muscle overnight. First of all, like I said before, I would fly to the ends of the earth to meet with you then and then be like, okay, how did you do it? What did you do? Did you ever have that fear when you were getting started? And even if you didn't, I bet you still hear that all the time today. How do you like to respond to that?
So I never had that fear. I always wanted more muscle. And I was always like the skinny fat girl in the gym. Like I worked out, but I didn't have a lot of muscle. I didn't have a lot of shape. So I had to work my butt off to put on as much muscle as I have. And but I do hear that from a lot of people, a lot of clients that will come to us and ask for help to build, and they're like, I just don't want to be bulky. Well, that's cool because you won't. There's a very very small percentage of women who have the genetic ability to put on that much mass, and a lot of the times it takes a long, 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 long time.
or the worst word that's ever been invented, toned, where I just want to strangle the person whenever they say tone. It's like, what do you mean by that? What? And they're like, oh, I just want to, just tone up. And I was like, well, tell me again what you think that means. And what it means is, oh, I just want to lose some weight and stuff like that. It's like, well, what do you think's going to be underneath that? What do you just want to be all bone? Because if you want to do that, I mean, you just don't eat, and then that's how you get to the. But yeah, that brings up a whole tangent for me where I'm just like, no, come on. I've heard that way too many times on this podcast where people are like, yeah, I've heard people say you want to get toned, and I was like, oh my god. First of all, though, the one I had the Australian guest on who said toned, I was like, okay, you have to say that again because that's awesome. But that's a whole different story. But I love to talk genetics too on this podcast because everybody, unfortunately, is not like everyone else. And if like everyone's on social media, and we see this all the time where people think that if they train just like a person, if they eat just like them, they're going to look just like them. And that is not the case. But whenever someone first gets started working out, they always have that one body part that really, really takes off, that they don't have to train as much. And they have that one body part that just, heaven forbid, they could train into oblivion. Like for me, it's my legs, where I could inject pure muscle into my legs and they wouldn't even gain an ounce. I mean, I'm 6'3", so that's my excuse, at least, that I use. But what was one body part for you that really took off, and then what was one body part that really dragged behind that you just have to train to oblivion?
So I don't know if you can tell, but my shoulders are my strong point. They respond really easy. So I have a lot of people always reach out to me. How do I get your shoulders? I love your shoulders. Thank you. It's partly genetics. It's partly training. Yes. But those, yeah, they get big really easy. So I have to tone it down a little bit there. I think my hardest muscle group to build is glutes. Bikini is all about the booty. I have wide hips. So we're talking about genetics. Everyone's shaped differently. Our skeletal structures are different. So, and where our muscles insert and attach are different for everybody. So definitely glutes have been a struggle. I train very, very hard, but like you said, everyone's different too. So like certain exercises that may work for me might not work for you. So, and just different angles with your feet, for example, on a leg press, where you place them, how your toes are out or in, or it's everyone's different.
Yeah, I got the Norwegian farmer build, basically, is what I'm rocking here. So it's not that conducive to really lower body. I I really think so. Yeah, I mean, I don't even get me started on calves. That is the number one pet peeve for me, where it's like that's the number one genetic thing. I don't care what anyone says. You see a person with nice calves, 90% of the time they've never worked them a day in their life.
Yeah.
It's just ridiculous. Okay, we can hear a dog. What kind of dog do you have? Because I'm the biggest dog lover ever.
We have two pit bulls. It's kind of see.
Oh, that's cute. Oh. No, we have a little Cavachon. Your dog would step on our dog and kill it, but that's I'm honest, so that's gonna be part of it. So I'm making a compilation right now as we speak of times that dogs have, been on the podcast. So I am making your dogs will now be a part of that compilation now. So my favorite moment though is I had a guy bodybuilder on, and he had his trophies in the background on like a stand. A cat jumped up on the stand and started kicking off the trophies while we were talking, and I just said, "You realize that's staying in, right? Because that's the greatest thing that's ever happened on this podcast."
Oh my
And he's
God.
like,
I haven't seen that one yet. I'm gonna have to look that one up.
I will send you the link to that one, because yeah,
Okay.
that one was great.
Yeah.
So
We also have four cats, and normally when we're working here at the desk, there's one walking across the screen, up on the keyboard. They're everywhere.
I've never had a cat myself. My dad's a huge cat guy, but my mom hates them, so we never had them. But like, yeah, cats do not seem to give a shit about anything really. So yeah, that's great. But I mean, getting also back into the lifestyle, this is the nutrition part of it is just so much more important than the working out part, which I say unfortunately because I realized that the hard way myself. But what would you say are probably some of the bigger nutritional changes that you made? Because I mean, that is just, I still have friends who, God bless them to this day, think that they can go at Burger King, like 2 or 3 times a week and still be in shape. And it's like, well, because you're 27 and call me in 5 years and tell me how that's working out for you.
Yeah. Some people can do that. Some people have to do that because their metabolisms are just insane.
My dad's best friend from college, he's like 62 years old. He could eat 100 Snicker bars a day and not put on, like, he's one of those freaks where you're just like, and he's like he looks like he's like in very good shape too. Like he's very muscular and stuff like that. So it's like, dude, come on. I tell him every time, I hope God's playing a cruel joke on you and one day you're going to wake up 400 pounds, but it hasn't happened yet.
I don't know. People like that, it's a blessing and a curse, right? Because they can eat whatever they want, but they have to eat a lot. And like my husband's like that. He stays really pretty lean easily.
As someone who loves eating, having to eat a lot is not a curse.
Ditto. I am a fat kid at heart. I will, yeah, I could out eat him all day long, but he has a hard time putting on size and keeping on the size. So it's like a, it's a balance. Um, for me, the changes, I mean, growing up, yeah, I was one of those ones I could eat whatever I wanted. And then as I got older, after I had a kid, like your body changes, your hormones change, everything slows down, unfortunately. So just being mindful. But also like over the years, going through these preps, my body has responded differently to carbs or fats or whatever. So honestly, no two preps have ever been the same for me.
What is your time management like being a mom and being a bodybuilder and doing with all other things? Because I mean that time management. Like I am a bachelor. I am not I haven't had any kids yet that I know of. Wink, wink. I don't know. But like, how do you deal with that time management wise? Because I look at that and I would probably drive myself crazy within a couple of weeks.
So it's hard. I have my day planner is booked out months in advance with everything that I need to do. And I have to be on a very set schedule. With work, I have to set out what my projects are. With clients, same thing. Yeah, I have to plan everything. Otherwise, the world is chaotic. Now you have to kind of go with the flow sometimes because stuff happens. So you have to be a little bit
This
flexible.
is my version of a planner.
Wow. Yeah. No.
I wish I've told this to some guests before, but I wish I could take a photo of my desk and send it to you right now so you could see just how messy it is. Like I'm the exact opposite. Where literally, I'm the guy that like everyone knows that like they could call and be like, "Hey, you want to go out for drinks in 5 minutes?" And I will be there in two. So yeah, I that planner thing. I mean, the only time I ever did that was kindergarten when they gave everyone a planner basically, and you had to write down, yeah, everyone, yeah. So, but yeah, that is a part of this lifestyle too, where I look at that and I'm just like, okay, more respect to the people that can do that because that is insane in the eyes of a person like me. But now one of my favorite questions too as well. What was your friends and family's reaction like when you announced them like, "Hey, I want to give bodybuilding a try"? Because that's not something that a lot of people hear.
Um, honestly, I mean, my daughter, when she was only 4 when I started, so she was all about it. She she's the typical little girl,
She's doing
thinking
burpees in the background while you're working out and stuff.
yeah, so I used to own 2 gyms when she was really little. So she would I mean, the gym was her literal playground. She just thought that was the greatest thing. So when I started posing and stuff, she'd put on her little bikini and her heels and she'd do posing with me. It was adorable. But now that she's almost 13, she's like, "Oh, mom," like she doesn't think anything of it, right? But the rest of my family, I mean, my dad has always been supportive of anything that I wanted to do, but he's like, "All right, great job. I'm really proud of you. Now put some damn clothes on." He just doesn't. I mean, he gets it. He's very supportive, but he's not like, "Oh man, yeah, you should get on stage in a bikini." Like what dad is really.
I've always said it takes a special type of dad to be able to go and watch their daughter in a bikini on stage and be like, "That's my daughter" and stuff like I could get being that and being like, "Okay, what?" But like, hey, more power to him. And your poor daughter now that she's gonna have to be dealing with those teenage boys being like talking about your mom and stuff like, oh my, it's gonna be a
Well, yeah,
never
I
end.
haven't heard any. Well, okay, so maybe a few years ago, she did come home and she would say like, "Oh, I told the boys in my class that you have bigger muscles than their dad," or like. But my husband's a bodybuilder, so
I was
she'll
gonna
go.
say, so like it's a win-win because it's like, yeah, my dad also has bigger muscles than your dad too.
Yeah,
So does my
yeah,
mom. So yeah, so
yeah. So she goes to school, and if the boys give her a hard time, she just says, "Well, my dad, Jr., my dad will kick your butt or whatever." Like, and they're all afraid of him.
so I had a friend just like that in high school where his mom and dad were both competing. So like they were both he'd always say things like, "My dad could beat your dad up, and so could my mom." And he'd always just say that to people, so then everyone would just be like laugh. And now he's a bodybuilder too, go figure. So it runs in the family for a lot of these people. But yeah, it's just I love to talk about that because that family reaction is so important on how much easier it makes for because like I've had people that I've talked to who their family might not be that supportive and it really does make things harder than it really needs to be for a lot of these competitors. So having that support really does help in the long run. But I mean, the number one thing that I never would have guessed in a million years is the hardest thing for so many of these competitors, but I've learned over time is posing. What is your experience with posing been like? Because so many people do not understand that is, harder than a lot of these guest nutritions and they're working out.
Yeah. So a lot of us are just gym rats. We wear sneakers and gym clothes all day long. So for us bikini girls, we have to put on heels and do our hair and makeup and look pretty. Like, what is that? So yeah, that was very difficult.
I just love you're saying, like, "You tell me I gotta look pretty on this stage?" Like, come on now, so which is one thing that I never really I like the female side of it, like, they advertise it as more of a beauty pageant, I was like, "Why?" It's like, what I'm sorry, but I just want someone who's just dedicated to the gym. I don't want someone who looks like a supermodel up on that stage with, like, their hair and makeup done. It's like, I want someone who looks like they just spend all their time in the gym. So, yeah, I never really did get that too, where it's like and why are you making them wear high heels too? It's like, these people are they're so drained from their preps, and they're so, like, they're so low on basically every nutritional aspect of their body, and you're making them wear high heels on that stage. It's like you're just asking for accidents to happen.
The heels make our legs look better, so
That's
I'll
true.
take it. It just takes some practice, definitely. I tell all my girls, meal prep in them, vacuum your house in them, you'll be good.
Yeah, I've heard that way too many times, but yeah, just well, and out of their poses that you do, what is your favorite pose and what is your least favorite pose?
I like my front pose. Um, for us bikini girls in the IFBB, it's like a side pose, side glute, and then turn your shoulders towards the front. So for me, I really like the hourglass shape. You see some of the glute, you see a lot of quad, your abs, your shoulders. I just think it's a well balanced pose. And because my glutes are not my strong suit, I do not like my back pose as much. I have to trick myself and tell myself, okay, I'm confident. I love my back pose. You just have to reframe it.
At least with your back pose, you can let your smile down because that's a big thing in
That's
this
true.
sport too as well.
Yes.
You know,
You can
so
take deep breaths, let your belly
yeah,
go, stop smiling.
absolutely. And being a bikini competitor, I mean, that's a part of the sport where it requires a lot of sass and a lot of individuality, and that's something that a lot of people don't have. Was that something that you always had, or was that something that you sort of had to learn? Because like you look at some of that flair and pizzazz that people have as bikini competitors when they walk on stage. I mean, it's different than any other division.
Yeah, for me, it's developed for sure. So my very first show, I was a little sassier, but it was a different federation, so they like that. When you get into the NPC and the IFBB, they like more classy, but a little bit of personality to come through to kind of set yourself apart. So really, it like you said, it's very individual. Everyone is different. If your personality is like cutesy, then have like cutesy little beboppy walk and transitions. If you'd rather be sexy, then be more smooth and sexy about it. Like, yeah, you have to go with what you feel the most comfortable doing. Otherwise, if you try to force something that's not you, it'll really show on stage, and the judges can tell.
I have seen some of that just watching some of these shows online, like afterwards, and I was just like, oh, you can tell that that person wasn't naturally that type of person just walking on. Or I've had one where it was just like a robot, and I was like, okay, come on now. But when you are walking on that stage, what is that moment like for you? Like after working your butt off through a prep, it's like, let's be honest, preps are not fun. And anyone that's told me that they are fun, I'm gonna drive you to the mental insane asylum, basically, because for the betterment of society. What is that moment like for you when you finally get to walk up on that stage and show off all that hard work that you've worked so hard on?
Dude, that's the fun part. Because like you said, you have worked your butt off for weeks, months, years, and you finally get to show all of your hard work and your progress. And if you can get over that nervousness just going up there, it's like the icing on top of the cake that you haven't eaten.
Which you will never eat. Like, let's be honest. Let's.
Oh, I eat cake. I
So
eat
what
cake.
is your go to post show meal then?
Ooh, okay. So it depends. Every prep I crave something different. Sometimes it's pancakes. I love pancakes. Yeah,
Do you
blueberry
just get
pan
the normal pancakes or blueberry or anything?
blueberry. Yeah, Maine blueberry. Come on. But a lot of
I
the
thought you
times
get
with
like lobster
pizza.
pancakes or something like that then.
Oh, I don't. Maybe lobster crepes. But pizza is always a go-to. Ice cream for sure. Yeah.
What I would do is I would take $1,000 and I would rent out a Five Guys for the night and just say like, you're gonna feed me until I either die, pass out, or throw up. And even if I do throw up, I'm still gonna keep eating this damn food because
Yeah.
it's ridiculous. And
Yeah.
when you're on that stage, does time seem to slow down or speed up, or is it sort of a mixture?
Yeah, so when you're nervous, it feels like it takes forever, especially when we're up there by ourselves doing our routines, our individual routines. It feels like we are on stage for an hour and we're only up there for like a minute.
That's the one tricky part about the sport too, is that it's like you. I mean, I've been on the mound for like 3 hours at times, and literally it just feels like nothing. And then there's been other times where it's like, yeah, this is taking forever. So
Yeah, so once you're not nervous, you're just in that flow. It does go by fast. But if you're nervous, take your time, take your deep breath. You're good.
Absolutely. Well, and I love to talk about post-show blues because most people do not understand that that look that you present on stage is not sustainable. You're not going to be able to look like that 365 days out of the year, which I mean, I that to me is just a big struggle too because it's like I could not imagine looking like how some of these competitors look and then just realizing like, hey, I'm not going to be able to maintain that look. What was that like for you when you first got started in this sport, and has it gotten easier for you to accept that as your career's gone on, that like, hey, I'm not going to be able to maintain this?
Yeah, so after my first show, I was very much a fat kid, and I gained 7 pounds in the first, like, 2 or 3 days and, like, 14 by the end of the first week. I was just like, "Oh, I can eat now? I can eat whatever I want? Okay, I'm going to." And I felt like crap. My body hurt. My digestion was all kinds of messed up for a long time after, so I do not recommend that. So over the years, I've definitely, like, made my mental capacity stronger that I can stay focused post show. But you're right. After the show, when we're getting ready for a show, we're so focused on that date and having that specific look that we want on stage that after not having that specific goal, it's kind of like, well, now what? So it is very hard. I think that reversing after a show is even harder than the prep itself. So a lot of times I'll try to schedule multiple shows at a time or a photo shoot a few weeks, a month, whatever after to kind of hold myself accountable in a way.
Yeah, that is a good strategy to have because yeah, too many people I've seen, like especially the guys, where they put on like 40 pounds in like a week or two, and it's like, yeah, I do not. First of all, I want to see that food bill afterwards because that is just ridiculous. But second of all, that is just. Oof. But I always like to compare it to like starting your own business where you got to spend money to make money. You got to put on weight if you want to put on muscle. Unfortunately, those do come hand in hand. Well, now I got to ask, what was that like when you and your husband were first competing for the first time, like together, realizing your guys' food bill? Because that's one thing that a lot of people do not understand when you compete in this sport. Your food bill is going to be, you're going to look at that and probably take one look and be like, is this really something that we want to do?
Honestly, we don't even think about it because this is just the lifestyle that we chose and it's just part of it. Like a lot of people have leases on their cars and they don't even think about it. Well, we would rather put our money into good quality food.
When I was still living with my parents and I would bring back all the chicken that I would eat and stuff like that, they literally looked at my credit card one time. They're like, Ryan, what are you doing? Like, what are you spending all this on? He goes, what are you doing this like farm thing? Or it came from like a farm place or whatever. Like, so like, they're like, Soda Farms, where the hell are you doing all that? And I was like, you see all the chicken there? And that's what it is. And then they're like, you're spending that much money on that? You're spending more money on. So yeah, it became this whole big thing. So yeah, that's whenever I hear that, I always have to bring that up. But one thing that a lot of people do not understand too is the amount of cardio that you're going to have to do. And I hate cardio more than life itself. To me, it is the bane of all existence on this planet. And when I say cardio, I mean actual running. I could go for a walk for 100 miles and I'd probably be fine. I wouldn't be fine, but I probably would. But unfortunately, when you become a bodybuilder, you sort of have to sign a deal with the devil when it comes to cardio. What is your relationship with cardio like?
So it's a love hate for sure. Like I said before, all of my preps have been different. I've had some preps where I've had to do up to 2 hours of cardio, miserable. And then some preps I'm only doing 20 minutes. So, it depends on how your body's responding that time, what you're doing with your diet, how your training is going, how much muscle you have, what your look is that you're trying to go for. But honestly, like I just try to like I'll read a book. I will watch YouTube, watch Netflix, whatever, anything to kind of get my mind occupied and kind of get in the zone. For me, I don't have to do a lot of high intensity cardio, luckily, because I have a hard time keeping the size on my legs. So for me, the high intensity stuff, the intervals, the running, I can't do because it just shrinks up my legs too much. So I'm on a bike most of the time or walking on a treadmill. So the watching TV or something like that really it helps.
Well, hey, now I gave you a movie to watch. Now, Wet Hot
Yeah.
American Summer. Next time you're doing, and first of all, I want you to tell me first of all what you think of it after you watch it because I think you will enjoy it. There was also they made a TV show off of it too with all the cast members returning and everything. There's two different ones on Netflix too that they made about it, so you can find
Okay.
those at least on there. So. Yeah, it's called Wet Hot American Summer 10 years later, where it's the funny joke where they have the cast 10 years older, but then they still portray the teenage versions of themselves.
Okay.
So yeah, it's you need to definitely see it's hilarious. And then yeah, I mean that cardio. I mean, luckily I live next to some nature paths where I can go for walks and whatnot. But sleep is also, I mean, it is the most important thing of this lifestyle and just life really in general. And I mean, when you do become a bodybuilder and as you do get closer and closer to your shows, your sleep schedule can become a little bipolar. How do you deal with that?
Yeah, so as I get leaner, my body doesn't feel like it needs as much sleep, which is funny. My husband's the opposite. He feels like he needs more. And I wake up earlier and earlier as I get closer to a show. My body's I'm like ready to go. Let's go. Um but yeah, sleep is huge. But I usually sleep really, really well through the night. So I think that the quality of your sleep is really the most important rather than how
Even with
yeah.
all the water you're drinking, you still sleep well through the night?
I do. Yeah, I try to stop drinking about an hour before I go to bed. I am a camel. I drink a ton of water throughout the day. So, yeah, if you try to stop a little bit before going to bed, you don't have to wake up and pee as many times.
Wherever I'm living, I need to make sure that I'm within about 15 feet of a bathroom, just for me, because I'm like I'm gonna be getting up like 3 or 4 times during the
Yeah.
during the night. So that's another thing about this sport or this lifestyle too that people that should be more advertised is like drink all this water. Yes, it's good for you, but also buyer beware. This is some of the things that will happen to you as well from consuming all of this. But hey, I'm glad that you somehow are one of those genetic freaks where you can actually sleep well through the night drinking as much water as you do, and I'm glad. At least I'm glad for that aspect of it, as well. But like, let's be completely honest too. You're not the average looking woman, especially if you were to walk out in public dressed the way that you are right now. I mean, I sort of like to compare it to like being a mini celebrity, where you're gonna draw people's attention just because it's human nature when they see something that isn't of the normal. To like just, oh wow, that's interesting. What has that been like as you've been in this sport? Has it gotten easier for you to sort of deal with the extra added attention that you're gonna get?
Yeah, well, so we're in central Maine and we're not known for our fitness up here. So, yeah, I'm definitely the minority.
What are you
So I
talking about?
definitely,
That's all Stephen King talks about is all the bodybuilders up in Maine.
right? Yeah, so the looks, I mean, I'm used to it now, right? But and it's kind of a compliment because I work hard. I've had usually every time we go to the grocery store, someone's coming out to me, "Oh, I love your shoulders, I love your arms, I love your legs, whatever." Like, thank you, thank you. How long does it take you to get that to look like that? How much can you bench? I
That's
don't.
when you say I've never worked out a day in my life. I just woke up like this.
Yeah,
No, and I've always found that fascinating the reactions that people get too because yeah, it's something that they don't see it too often. But what would you say is probably the number one misconception that the general public gives you about the sport of bodybuilding? Because there's so many myths about this sport that people just don't understand.
mm, that we don't eat normal food. We do. I made cookies earlier this morning, and I had some. Like, we are normal people. We have feelings too.
I'm starting to drool. What kind of cookies?
Oh, I made a whole bunch. I made some lemon ones, some chocolate chip cookie with peanut butter pretzel, coconut, almond joy. Yeah, a whole bunch.
And you ate these? Aren't you on your prep?
I had a few little bites. It's not
Okay,
gonna kill
okay.
me.
I thought you meant like you were chowing them down and stuff like that, and I was like, God, she must have the greatest metabolism of all time. Then she's just no,
A
that's
bite here and there won't kill me. But yes, after this week, I kind of gave myself this week to like be a little normal, give myself a little leeway, and then I'll be back on prep tomorrow.
does your daughter sort of understand as you get close to your shows, like maybe it's time to leave mommy and daddy alone a little bit, not
Yeah,
anger them so much?
yeah. She definitely calls me a rage monster from
Yeah.
time to time.
Just lock myself in my room, I'll play some games or something like that. We'll figure something out. And then we'll wait until it's after, and then I'll quietly exit my door and just be like, is everything okay now?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's another part where I'm glad that I quit my prep when I did because I probably would have burned my house down if I would have went probably about another like 2 weeks. So I was like, okay, I was glad that I quit when I did because I don't think that anything positive would have really come up from that. But what's the best piece of advice that you'd like to give someone who might walk up to you and say, like Crystal, I'm thinking about maybe giving bodybuilding a shot myself?
Yeah, I think that it's something that anyone can do if they really wanted to. But you have to want it for yourself. I can't want it more for you than you want it for yourself.
That and find a coach too.
Yes, a really good coach will help guide you along the path for sure.
That is the difference between life and I mean, I've heard so many of these sob stories of people who never like their first 2 or 3 shows, they didn't even have a coach. And I was like, how did you even do that? Like, I don't get like they make things so much easier. A good coach. And I have to preface it by saying a good coach because for every good coach, there's more bad coaches than good coaches. That's just what I've learned from having so many guests on and talking to so many people. So Yeah, that is definitely the difference between, a successful prep and a not so successful prep. And what are your current plans this year? What are you getting ready for, and what are you looking for the rest of the year?
So I have another show April 30th in Orlando, the Girl Power IFBB Pro show. And I go show by show, but possibly the following weekend in Boca. I'm not sure. We'll see. And maybe Puerto Rico later in the summer, but I don't know. We'll see. I just go by how I feel, how I look, what my feedback is from the judges, what they want to see.
What's the usual feedback that you get from the judges after the shows?
Um, I have heard a lot to keep my shoulders not so big. So I don't pump up my upper body at all before going out on stage. I've heard bring my glutes in fuller. I've heard come in a little bit leaner, come in a little bit softer. It's kind of all over the place, which is a little frustrating.
Does that ever annoy you when like your shoulders are your most defining part and you aren't able to train them as much as as much as you might want to?
Yes, yes, it is.
I've talked to someone whose arms were the number one thing and they were a favorite competitor, and I was like, okay, that's just torture right there. Being a gym bro myself and being like, okay, I can't train arms as much as I would want to. That would just drive me absolutely insane. But you did mention before you are a pro, and I love to ask all the pros on on the podcast. What was that moment like when they announced your name and you realized, oh my god, I'm a pro now?
Yeah, so that was really cool. I only got well, I have 2 pro cards. I got my pro card from the OCB when I first started my 2nd year in. Um, but then getting the IFBB pro card, honestly, like, going up through the ranks, I never thought I'd really be able to do it, and then I did, and yeah, it was incredible. But honestly, it was almost like part of me was like, yeah, I knew I was going to do it. That calm on stage, I just knew that that was mine that day. And then another part of me was like, wow, is this real? Like, pinch me. Am I dreaming right now?
Yeah, I can't imagine what that feeling's like, because that is just, yeah, all the affirmation and all the stuff that, that you go through to all of a sudden finally be like, okay, I can compete in pro shows now and everything. That's just amazing. But you're also a posing coach, and we talked about posing before. What is the biggest struggle that you deal with as a posing coach when it comes with new clients?
Um, a lot of, like I said earlier, a lot of us are not, this is not natural for us. We're a bunch of gym rats. So for us bikini girls to be pretty and elegant and classy, it's very difficult. I think
Are
the
you calling you
walking,
and your fellow competitors not pretty? I just want to get the dirt on here.
I mean, we're pretty, but we're not like
No, no, I
Barbies,
know,
you
I know,
know?
I know. There's a gym pretty, and then there's like a beauty pageant pretty, and they're
Yeah,
totally different things. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So I think just, yeah, just kind of getting your sea legs, if you will, like just getting the feel for it and being confident in your own skin. That's probably the hardest part.
Well, that and being able to hold those poses for like minutes at a time, because the human body is not designed to hold that for that. That's one thing. I did one posing lesson just for fun, and it wasn't paid for anything. Like, I had a friend who was a really good poser, and he's like, yeah, I'll just run you through, no worries. So just holding that for as long as they make you hold it, I was like, okay, this is even more worse than any workout that I've ever done. And so that's why I started that. That too was just another
We always
thing.
start off slow, so I'll only hold poses for like 10 seconds, and then we'll slowly add a little bit more time every week. So by the time we're close to show, I'm like a minute, minute and a half each pose, just to make sure that your conditioning is up. Because yeah, when you're on stage, man, they hold you up there. That class is really competitive. They will hold you up there, and then the day after the show, you feel like you did an entire body workout. You are so sore.
Hmm. Absolutely, yeah, and that's is ridiculous. And this is a question that I haven't asked too much, but I really think it's a great question, so I wanted to just bring it up. Is, so many people might think this of like, why does she do this? Why does she do this sport? Like, what does she get out of it? How do you like to respond to that? Because that's a question that I even had myself. I'm not gonna lie, when I'm talking to some of these guests, and I was like, why the hell do they do like what do they do this for? I mean, it's like, and I appreciate what they do and everything. And it's just like, well, but like, why? So like, what is the end like deep down when you're really like in your hour and a half of cardio and you're just thinking like, why am I doing this? What is the answer that you give yourself?
Yeah, so I think that has evolved a little bit. I think always at the base of it is confidence, self confidence, proving to myself that I can do something that I stick to. Um, and for me, I have to do it for myself. I can't do it for the placing. I can't do it for anybody else. Yes, I want to inspire the ones around me. I want everyone to feel like they can do whatever they set their mind to. That's a big reason for me. But I have to do it because I want to, because I want to keep improving.
Yeah, that's a good one to have, because I've had too many people who they just do it for the placing, and then I won't talk to them a year from now because they won't be competing anymore, because then it's just like, so, or those other people that do it just so they can have it on their Instagram page and just say, hey, I competed once, so, buy my workout programs. And it's like,
Yeah. Buy my shoulder workout program.
buy,
I'll teach
yeah,
you how to get big
yeah,
shoulders.
exactly. Yeah. And then by the time you buy that program, they've put on you like 30 pounds and stuff like that. And they're just like, yeah, look, I used to be like that. Like, I could sell my workout programs from 5 years ago. And yeah, so, but
Yeah,
no, that's, yeah.
right.
Yeah, that is ridiculous. Well, we can see you already got the veins in the shoulders too, and it's like, come on, that's God, that's a blessing right there. I'm one of those people where I could be at 1% body fat and I would not have any veins at all.
You
It's
never
just,
know. You never know.
oh, trust me, I've gotten down to like around like 6-7%, and like it was, yeah, it was barely there, and I was, so
It's over time. When I first started competing, I always had like abs, but like as I get leaner now, like I'll have veins all the way up my abs. So, you know, it's just development.
was it hard after having a kid to get abs back again? Because that's one thing that I've heard from a lot of moms on the podcast.
Yeah, for me, honestly, it wasn't. I've always had a small waist, and I was in the best shape of my life before I got pregnant with her. So I think that really helped. I was active when I was pregnant with her, obviously active after I had her. So that really helped. I did not let myself gain a bunch of weight. I didn't get lazy. I didn't lay around. So that was
Were
huge.
you one of those moms that, like, I've seen online where at like 8 months they just have an extended six pack, really, basically?
I mean, I never wore maternity pants, so I'm kind of a freak in that way. Yeah, I walked out of the hospital with my regular pants buttoned right up. Yeah. So, but that I mean, I've always had a
Those
smaller
nurses were
waist.
probably like that.
Yeah. Yeah. I was really young too,
Yeah,
though, so that helped.
yeah, that helps too as well. But yeah, I will never be able to have the kids, so that's, I guess, a blessing for me that I will never have to deal with that post body. But that is just even amazing too, is like the moms that I have on there, like, okay, you're able to do this after having kids, because so many people have that myth that like as soon as they have kids or whatever like that, it's like, oh well, I can let myself go now and everything will be fine. Which, I mean, you can, and everything could be fine, but it's like you don't have to have it be like that. And how important is it for you two to also be like, we talked about a little bit, but be that example for your daughter and just for that younger generation too? Like, yeah, you can be in shape no matter what.
Yeah, that's huge. I want her to know. I mean, we talk about nutrition all the time in our house, so she knows. And she is not the most health conscious when she makes her own decisions. She, of course, like any kid,
She's
she wants
13, for
candy.
God's sakes,
Yep,
Crystal.
yep. She loves soda and candy and all of that stuff, but she knows. She knows what's healthy. She knows what's not. She
I would
knows
call
how
her
her
a
body
freak to her
responds.
face if she was one of those where it's like, I gotta have my sodium, my carbohydrate and stuff. It's like, no, just go out and have a damn milkshake, for God's sake.
Yes.
Yeah.
But she knows too, like, if something's not on my plan and I go to take a bite, she's like, Mom, that's not on your diet.
You just respond, love you too. Yep.
Yep. Yep.
No, yeah, that is great. And I have heard stories of that too, where like the kids, yeah, are sort of the police of the, like, really, you're gonna eat that? Really? What are you
Yeah.
gonna do? So yeah, that is awesome. But I mean, we are a day past St. Patrick's Day, and it is a holiday, as much as people like to say. But how do you deal with the holidays around, being that you're not just the only one that's competing in your family? I mean, it's a different story if you're the only one, but having your husband competes as well. How do you guys deal with the holidays? Because if you tell me for Thanksgiving you're just serving up like protein shakes to your guests and stuff like that, which one
Let me
guest
tell you.
one guest told me that, and I was like, I might call the police on you.
Yeah, no way. Thanksgiving is my favorite holiday because of the food. No, I mean, honestly, when I'm in prep, that doesn't mean that everyone else has to suffer. Like, everyone else has normal meals. I still bake, I still cook everyone's normal meals, and we just eat at the same time. So we try to like be a family as normal as possible. They're just eating different things. It's really not that big of a deal.
Well, how do you deal with cooking that stuff? Because if I was that hungry, or if I was that stuff, I would get a few tastes in every once in a while, and then eventually I would just eat the whole damn thing before it even got delivered. Like, how do
Yeah.
you? That's willpower that I could not imagine.
Yeah, sometimes when I'm in prep and I'm feeling weak-minded, it is very hard. It is very hard to have things in front of me. But most of the time when I'm focused on prep and I have that goal and I'm just laser focused in on bringing my best, it doesn't matter. You can sit and eat cake in front of me. It is no big deal.
You haven't had my pumpkin pie. That's the only problem, though. You'd take one whiff of that damn thing, and you would just be. I mean, I know I'm gonna gain about 10 pounds, and then I got to lose that off by cardio. So hey, it's worth it though. Like just like the Super Bowl where my mom made cupcakes, and I had one cupcake. Fine. I had 5. Fine. I had 12. The next day was not so fine.
Yeah, no.
Not gonna lie. So
That's the thing too. You gotta know yourself. So a lot of the people, if they have
I do, but
repeat
I just
meals, for
don't care.
example,
That's the problem.
yeah, yeah, there you go. Yeah. But sometimes for some people it's a snowball effect. So they can't even have one bite. Some people are okay, I'll have one bite and be good. Like that satisfies your craving. Some people it just creates more cravings. So you have to know yourself.
And I'm still in shape, so I told my parents, luckily it's cupcakes and not alcohol. That's what I told them. So,
Yeah,
hey, you gotta look at the positives at least. So, hey,
could be a lot worse.
you gotta look at it that way. But now as we wrap things up, I mean, if someone were to walk up to you and say you could change one thing about the sport of bodybuilding and everyone would go along with it, what would be one thing that you'd like to see changed?
I think I would like to see some consistency with judging. From show to show, from judge to judge, the feedback is always different. And yes, there's like a basic criteria, but it's hard, and especially with bikini because it is so subjective. Our poses are different, our transitions are different, our physiques are different. Um, it's difficult. I understand, but at the same time, we need more of a clear path to follow in a way.
Yeah, that I mean, I like you said, you're doing multiple shows usually, and like one of those shows, they might want you a little bit more of a leaner look. Then the next show, they might want you a little bit more of a fuller look, and it's like, good luck making that change in a week or two, basically, and then just So if they just had an overall credit and to get paid too, because I was like, I'm sorry, if you're a pro in this sport, you should not have to have a 9 to 5 job. That should be like that's ridiculous to me. Where it's like, yeah, I got to work, and then I got to go do my 2 hours of cardio, and then I got to go to the gym and stuff like that. It's like, no, if you're a pro, you should be able to make enough to be able to support yourself. So
Well,
I never
a
got.
lot of people do with sponsorships and things,
Well,
but
yeah, but I'm saying that should be like a
I like my
given
work.
though. Yeah, I'm saying like that should be like a given though, where it's like as soon as you, because I mean it's like to be able to do this lifestyle, even if you had no restrictions when it comes to like jobs or other like family restrictions, like it's still hard. But when you add on that stuff, it's like the people that do it are like a truly a special breed of people that they're able to accomplish that. So it's like, yeah, if you I was like, just imagine what they would look like if they didn't have any of those limitations or restrictions and stuff like that. So
You definitely see the difference in people who don't have to work, the ones who are sponsored, who can just eat and train and sleep and, do their
the
life,
ones that
do
are
their
like, yeah,
body.
I'm in the gym like 6 hours a day, and it's like, why? First of all, but
Yeah.
then you're just like, oh yeah, I guess so. But now, lastly, I mean, this last year has been such an eye-opening year for the sport when it comes to like, there's been a lot of deaths, and there's been a lot of stuff that's been happening, and that really just shows to a lot of people some of the extremes that this sport entails. And I mean, what has this been like for you? Because obviously you know all about that stuff because you've competed and stuff, and I knew about it because I talked to a lot of them. But like, it seems like the general public is now more informed of like some of the extremes that people go for, and just how hard this sport can be on people. And what has your reaction been like just to this last year? Because it feels like there are making some little changes maybe to the sport to hopefully make it safer for the people competing.
Yeah, there's always going to be the people who push the limits, right? Like everyone, not everyone, but a lot of people think that more is better. It's not. It's not. So, taking your health as your number one priority is so, so, so important, especially in this sport. Because, like for females, we're not made to be this lean. Our bodies don't want to be. Our hormones function better when we have a little bit of body fat. That's just how we're made. So, to think that we're going to stay this lean year round for years and years, you're going to have some huge repercussions at the end of it.
I've made the comparison. It's like if you were to give 100 people a bottle of Jack Daniels, like what 30 of them might drink it within like a week or so. 30 people might drink it within a month. Some people might not even touch it. There'll be one guy that'll drink it within 5 seconds. So drink the whole thing. So it's just like that where it's like, yeah, people. There are going to be people that always try to push things to the limit, and it's like, yeah, this is not the sport where you really want to push it to the absolute limit. And I know that like everyone pushes it to the limit because of just the cardio that you do and everything. But it's like, yeah, and unfortunately they happen. But I think it's hopefully it's going to be for the betterment. But yeah, this is just a sport where it's and give it more exposure too. Because I'm sorry, like ESPN used to have these shows on. Now we're watching cornhole championships, which is a sport that you play, which is a sport that you play when you're absolutely shit faced on 4th of July or Memorial Day in your backyard, basically. So
Right?
that takes
No,
so
that
much
would be
skill and
cool.
dedication to do. It's like, no, it doesn't. Yeah, it's ridiculous. So don't even get me started on that. And which was funny because one day I did come back from drinking at a bar and they had the pro strongman and strong woman competitions on, and one of the guests that I had on was on it, and I even messaged her because it was like tape delayed. It was done like a week before, and I was like, "Wait, is that you on ESPN?" They're like, "Yeah," and I was like, "I'm just making sure that I wasn't too drunk or whatever like that to like think that like you were there." So then I had her on like 2 weeks later just talking about that. But yeah, that's awesome. And Crystal, I mean, I cannot thank you enough for coming on and sharing your story with us. I mean, it's an absolute delight to talk to you, and I'll leave a link to her Instagram page down below. Everyone go and check her out. And lastly, is there anyone that you'd like to give a shout out to before we wrap things up?
Yeah, my husband JR,
I was gonna
our
say if
team.
if you didn't say that, I'd be like, okay, what?
He's been my coach from the beginning, so I owe what I look like, how I
Wait, your
feel.
husband's been your coach?
Yes.
How does that work? Because that's an interesting dynamic.
Yeah. So sometimes it's hard because I feel like he needs to be harder on me.
Well, and the plus, like he will know. Like you can sometimes lie to a coach, say like, "Oh, I didn't have that cookie," when you really did. Like you can't do that with him. Then
No, he knows. Nothing sneaks by him. No. But he also says that he doesn't want to be as hard on me because he has to live with me. So,
that is a very valid point. I will give him points for that. Yeah.
but also, I also want to thank the rest of my team, Team Muscle Time, all of us fellow competitors. It's like a family. Everyone supports everyone in whatever their goals are. So shout out to my daughter who is my little mini coach who slaps cookies out of my hand and tells me to go do cardio. So
Oh, that kid's gonna grow up to be some personal trainer or something like. I mean, she's already got the skills for it, basically. But I mean, you did bring it up, and I totally forgot about asking it. I mean, like, yeah, this is especially on the female side of it. It's like a sisterhood where everyone really does genuinely care about each other. How important to you is that? Like knowing when you do step on stage, you're stepping on stage with people that really do have your back.
yeah, oh my god, it makes the experience so much better. I mean, obviously, there's always going to be some of those bitches out there that
I've
just.
talked to a couple of them. I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
But for the most part, the ones who really truly support you, you obviously know the difference who is who, and it really does make the experience that much better.
Yeah. Absolutely. And again, you guys, like I said, go and check out Crystal on her Instagram page. Buyer beware. You will get inspired to get off that couch and stop eating all those Twinkies. And again, everyone, if you again, Wet Hot American Summer, if you haven't checked it out, go and check it out. I will be checking in with her periodically to see if she's seen it. And if she hasn't, I might just have to like send her a DVD of it. I don't know. But again, Crystal, thank you so much for coming on and sharing your story. It was an absolute delight to have you on, and we wish you nothing but the best.
Thank you, Ryan. Ditto.
All right. Well, this is Ryan Johnson, DD on the spot, signing off. Have a great day, everyone.